Excuse my cold. But you all at your firm have been working with the SWD flies for over 15 years. I want to talk about that because they're targeting our blueberries and peaches. And we lead the nation in producing blueberries and peaches. It's our great industry. Over $400 million is what our farmers bring in. And yet many Georgia farmers continue witnessing their crops being infested and destroyed by these SWD flies. I want to talk about that because it's putting both our supply chain and our farmers' income at risk. So can you talk to me about that, Mr. Witherbee? Can you expand on the benefits of Congress helping to grow these public-private partnerships that you're involved with? And can you help us in this area? What are you specifically doing?
Yeah, thank you. So actually, we just spoke with a professor at the University of Georgia that we will start to do some testing on blueberries and peaches as well in Georgia here very soon. Part of the process going forward is that this is, and we talked about chemicals and other things of that nature. This is a safer, people do worry about their community. I had mentioned in my talk that we're dealing with chemicals that have been around for over 40 years. The only opportunity they have and your growers have is to continue to spray those. We've built resistance. A lot of those are harmful. Some of those did get removed, and importantly so. Unfortunately, they have no new tools because it's specialty crops. It's a smaller footprint compared to corn and soybean, et cetera. And so, the average to create a new active ingredient is 12 years of development and going through regulatory process and about $300 million. So it's very costly to bring on a new pet chemical. So technology like ours, which utilizes some of these new modern tools, can allow to make these cheaper. So the government has put in a lot of effort into making sterile insects through different processes, particularly to protect our borders from other invasive species. This is a modern version of it that is actually a lot cheaper to do. We're able to produce more sterile flies than what traditional sterile insect tech can do, and then can be deployed.
Well, tell me what we can do here in Congress. What existing laws or agency authorities should we in Congress review to better assist our companies like yours that are continuing to develop these new and innovative technologies? What can we do to help you here in Congress?
Yeah, I think part of that is related to the rules that the regulators are having to go through. Almost all of those were built for chemicals, not for these modern tools. So there's not a lot of flexibility there. As I'd mentioned before, this biological innovation, which is using CRISPR, which has been shown to be very safe and effective and very precise at gene editing, unfortunately is being treated like a chemical because there is no other legislation that the regulators can regulate to. So we are having to go through things that do not make sense in terms of, how long does this fly stay or active ingredient stay? What's the effect on human health when it's not really being applied, or what's the irritant level, et cetera. These are all things that are part of the current rules and regulations that they have to regulate to.
Yeah, well, tell me, why blueberries? Why peaches? These are the only two that they seem to be targeting. Is there something about blueberries?
Yes, they're very sweet, and part of it is they're soft-skinned. And so the way these insects affect the fruit is that they lay their eggs by punching holes in soft fruit, laying their eggs in there, and then once their eggs lay, as they develop, the worms eat the fruit, and that's what causes them to be infested. We're trying to block that cycle without spraying chemicals.
So it's because Georgia's
sweet
peaches that are just so sweet.
That's exactly right.
All right. Thank you.
Representative David Scott of Georgia raised a concern that has been troubling many of the state's farmers: the growing threat of spotted-winged drosophila (SWD) flies. Georgia leads the nation in blueberries and peaches, crops that generate more than $400 million each year, but these pests continue to devastate harvests, putting both farmer income and the broader supply chain at risk. Speaking before Congress, Scott turned to Bryan Witherbee, CEO of Agragene Incorporated, whose firm has been working with SWD flies for more than 15 years. Witherbee explained that his company is preparing to begin testing new methods on blueberries and peaches in partnership with the University of Georgia. He noted that traditional chemical sprays have been the only option for growers, but these solutions are becoming less effective as resistance builds. Many chemicals have already been banned for safety reasons, leaving farmers with no new tools to rely on. The challenge, Witherbee said, is that developing a new chemical takes an average of 12 years and costs around $300 million. Specialty crops like blueberries and peaches represent too small a market compared to major staples such as corn or soybeans, making it hard to justify such investments. That is why Agragene is turning to biological innovation. Using technologies such as CRISPR, the company is creating sterile flies that can disrupt the reproduction cycle of SWD. These tools, he argued, are not only safer but also more affordable to deploy at scale compared to chemicals. However, he emphasized that outdated regulations remain a major obstacle. Current U.S. rules were written for chemical pesticides, not modern gene editing methods. As a result, biological tools are forced into the same regulatory categories as chemicals, creating unnecessary delays and requirements that do not apply. For instance, regulators ask about active ingredients and human irritant levels, even though sterile flies are not chemicals being applied to food or people. When asked why SWD targets crops like blueberries and peaches, Witherbee explained that the sweetness and soft skin of these fruits make them especially vulnerable. The flies puncture the skin to lay eggs, and once larvae hatch, they consume the fruit from within, leaving it infested and unsellable. Agragene's approach aims to block this cycle without relying on heavy chemical use, offering growers a safer and more sustainable option. Scott pressed on what Congress could do to help. Witherbee called for updates to regulatory frameworks so that new biological innovations could be assessed fairly, rather than forced through outdated chemical-based rules. With such support, he said, modern tools could give farmers real alternatives to protect their crops and secure Georgia's role as a leader in blueberries and peaches.